Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is JGOD. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the SPR-208 sniper rifle, marksman rifle that was just added to Modern Warfare as part of the Season 6 update within the Battle Pass, which is unlockable at Tier 15. So the overall goal is to talk about some of the characteristics of this particular marksman rifle and kind of give you an idea if it's better or worse than the current meta that is being used within both multiplayer as well as Warzone. If you do enjoy the video or learn something new, please do me a favor, hit that like button. Goal in today's video is 3,500 likes. If you're brand new looking to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. So just before we get into the video, we have a short sponsored segment. This video has been sponsored by OSLO, a powerful video review and collaboration tool that just makes video production easier for YouTubers and their video editors. OSLO helps you speed up and simplify your workflow from production to upload with powerful collaboration features, all within one cohesive app. Easily share your videos online with one click and get feedback from your team and clients. And one of the best parts is you don't even have to leave the platform to upload your video directly to YouTube. So if you want more control of your video creation workflow, get started on OSLO today. It's how you make a YouTube video. So when it comes to this weapon, you really got to identify how it's going to be used and what is the closest contemporary. And based off all the different numbers and how it's going to be used, it definitely fits into the marksman category. And it's going to be that kind of alternate to the Kar98K. So there's different types of people that'll play the game. There's people that'll play more, a little bit more hard scopy. And then within multiplayer, you're probably going to go with the AX or the HDR, generally just because you're going to hard scope and you're going to hold that line. And generally those are way more forgiving in terms of getting those one-shot kills. Whereas when you go ahead and switch to the marksman rifle category, a lot of times you got to hit upper chest and headshots to confirm those one-shot kills within a certain range. And then if you do certain attachment, you can stretch that out. Stopping power, you can extend that out even further. But generally, you're going to use marksman rifles for kind of like a hybrid play style. You could either go with the quick scope, which can be a lot of fun if you're really good at that, but that's really an acquired skill that requires a tremendous amount of practice to get good at. Or you can do kind of like where you kind of are quick scoping, but you do hard scope when you need to, especially if someone is a little bit further away. So it's really a matter of how you're going to use the weapon. Personally, I think this fits significantly better into multiplayer. And it does have a build that could work in Warzone, especially with how its bullet velocity, ADS speed, fire rate, all these different variables go into it. It ends up being a little bit better than the Kar98 in pretty much every scenario. So let's go ahead and compare it head to head with the Kar98 since that's its main competition. First thing we're going to take a look at is ammo capacity. If you go with the Kar98, you're going to have those 5 bullets that you can fire consecutively, and you can reload an individual bullet at a time. Whereas in this case, we get the option for 5 bullets, or we get 10 if you go ahead and equip that magazine that you can have as that option. Or you can equip a 5-round mag that actually deals more damage and has better bullet velocity, which is probably going to be a little bit more recommended for Warzone since you don't need nearly as much bullet velocity in standard multiplayer or even in ground war. So head to head, I think if you're going to just go for feeds, 10-round mag is a little bit more advantageous just because you don't have to get caught reloading unless you're just going on 10-man feeds, which is very unrealistic for about 99.9% of the player base. So when it comes to fire rate, here's where the comparison gets a little bit tricky because the new sniper rifle actually has 3 different fire rates depending on which bolts you use. We're going to talk about those. The Kar98's fire rate, just for perspective, is approximately 44 rounds per minute, and regardless of what you use on this new sniper, it's always going to be faster. So we have the default rate of fire, which is 58 rounds per minute. If you end up going with that Deadeye bolt, it'll actually slow down your rate of fire to 51 rounds per minute, which is still faster than that 44 that we saw with the Kar98. With the only trade-off of having the slower rate of fire is that you're going to have an extra little bit of stability, which is the plus. If you want a little bit faster rate of fire with this thing, you can actually speed it up all the way to 67 rounds per minute with the feather bolt. But obviously in these cases, it's going to require an additional attachment. So this is where kind of it gets a little bit trickier because the Kar98, it has one, you don't even have the option. But then when you get it with this option, now maybe you don't put on a monolithic suppressor, maybe you can't put on a barrel, maybe you're not going to do attack laser because you have to worry about the ammo and you have to worry about the bolt. So more options can be a good thing, but it can get a little tricky. Is like, well, what am I going to sacrifice in terms of ADS speed and stuff like that? So Just so you kind of have an idea of what the 3 bolts look like on the new sniper rifle side to side, we'll go ahead and take a look at them side by side here. So here I have all 3 of them side by side. The first one on the left is the default one. The middle is that Deadeye, which is slower. And then we have the Feather, which is faster. So these aren't going to be aligned at all. And you're going to see how big a difference the actual fire rate is. And I'll go ahead and just put that there so you guys can see. They get out of sync pretty quick. And then the right one's way done before, then the left, and then this middle one gets done in thereafter. So we'll go ahead and show that again just so you have the comparison. This is how big a difference the fire rate is. Even though it's just a couple numbers, it ends up getting out of sync pretty quick. And when you're trying to do those follow-up shots, that extra might be enough for you to get the extra bullet in to squad wipe a team or something like that. So when it comes to multiplayer, especially if you're trying to quick scope, I think the Feather one is just going to be the way to go, because that additional rate of fire is going to come in clutch. Versus in Warzone, you kind of have a little bit of chance to pace your shots a little bit more, and you're not just literally spamming those as quick as possible. So I think that's going to be the difference there, depending on how you want to use the weapon. If you're just going to hard scope, you generally don't need that fast rate of fire, but it's definitely built for quick scoping, in my opinion, to have that extra rate of fire over the Kar 98. So obviously we've seen a little bit of gameplay in the background, primarily from ground war, just so I can kind of get a feel of the weapon, and the maps are a little bit bigger, so you can actually get into close engagements, medium and long, versus 6v6 would tend to be a little bit close. And then Warzone is primarily going to be long range distance. I went and took this into Plunder, and I tried to see how it felt, because a lot of times you could do all the testing in the world, you could look at numbers, you could look at damage profiles, but at the end of the day, is it good when you need to use it? And personally, I'm not a fan of the Kar 98 in Warzone. It's more of a quick scopy type of thing. The range has got to be a little bit closer, because the way you have to lead your shot, you know, put it a little bit higher above their head, all these different things. It's just simpler to have the sniper rifle that's going to do the job. In my opinion, in my play style, I'm going to kind of line up the shot, quick peek, and then I'm going to snipe them with the HDR up to about 250, 300 meters. Basically, wherever those crosshairs are, that's where the bullet's going, and it's going to get there pretty fast. Even with the fastest bullet velocity on this gun, it's still a hair slower than the HDR. But overall, one of the biggest issues for me was the optic. I just couldn't put an optic on it that gave me the same level of the zoom that I get with either the HDR or the AX50. So personally, it's not a gun I would use in Warzone, even though I had a ton of fun using it within multiplayer. So now what we'll do is take a look at the class setups, as well as talk about the individual aim down sight speeds compared to the Kar 98K. So this is pretty much the only area where the Kar 98 comes out a little bit of ahead of this brand new sniper rifle, and that is in the ADS department. The ADS on the Kar 98 is around 290. This one's closer to 320, which equates to be around 2 frames slower, which is for the most part not a significant difference. But as you start to stack attachments, you end up with other issues where it could be significantly slower or significantly faster, or that gap could grow. So personally, if I was only going to use this for quick scoping, I would make everything built towards ADS speed. So even though this one will help hurt your bullet velocity and aiming stability, I would still go with this one just because it gives you that faster aim down sight. I don't even think you need a muzzle unless you're just trying to stay off the mini-map, maybe with the monolithic suppressor or something if the UAV's in the air. I would go with the 10-round mags, even though this other one, especially the bottom one, will deal the extra damage and give you a little bit wider area. Normally, when you're quick scoping, I think most people prefer a 10-round mag, especially if you're skilled, upper body, or upper chest, and then the headshots. And then we have the bolt assembly. You're going to go with the Feather, because that gives you the faster there. And with this particular build, it only really leaves us 2 other attachments if you're going to have an optic, because default on this gun is iron sights instead of a regular sniper scope. So what you can do with that is go attack laser, and then you can put on whatever optic you want. The one I've used most in the gameplay was either a hollow sight or a VLK. I did use the other ones that are more geared towards sniping, but I just felt like I had a little bit more consistent with something like a VLK. And that would be the overall kind of like my quick scope class. Obviously, I'm not the best quick scoper, so there's pretty much other people that probably talked about this. But if you're just trying to get some quick, fast kills, run around, you know, high risk, high reward, this is probably the one I would use on a regular basis. So when you compare the Kar 98's quickscope class to this one, it ends up being around a 50 millisecond difference, where this one ends up being a little bit slower. So that ends up being around 3.5 to 4 frames at 60 FPS. So there will be a difference, but overall it's still going to have that same feel with that risk reward. Then when it comes to Warzone, pretty much the class setup that I would go with is going to be the monolithic suppressor. I'm going to go with the longest range recoil bullet velocity, just because you want to maximize that. And then you got to go with this ammunition just because it will add to that bullet velocity and then damage range. So you're basically maximizing everything you can get out of this weapon in terms of getting your bullets where you want them to go. And obviously this is for kind of comparing it to HDR. This is the only way you're going to get it close. And you got to go with the tac laser, because with the slower the ADS is, the bigger impact the tac laser has. And then overall, I would end up going with either a variable zoom scope, or they have the Solo Zero specialized optic. This gives you 7 times, whereas the variable can actually give you the 3.5 all the way up to an 8x. So just a little bit more, you can go with the variable. And at the end of the day, it's really a matter of preference at that point. Then once you've done that, if you decide to compare the ADS speed of this with the Kar 98 sniper class, this one ends up coming out faster by about a frame. It was around 14 milliseconds faster. So this can end up being the trade-off. It's a little bit more built for that. But I think in Warzone, this would be the class setup I would go with to try and get as many headshots as possible. Even though upper body shot deals more damage than the car, at the end of the day, you still got to land multiple shots, and you got to make sure you hit, and headshots are where you want to hit. So that ends up being the class setups. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, learned something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Appreciate all the support on the channel. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.